Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mentorship Monday with Michelle and Maren. We are so happy to see you and ready for another great conversation. Hi, Maren. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
But
Are
how's
we
your
ready to
family?
have? Oh, well, actually, yeah. That's why we weren't around last week. My dad's doing well. He's caught
Good,
himself a little bit of cold by the end of the week, but he's doing much better. And
good.
thank you to everybody for all of the kind messages and comments and everything. Really appreciate it. We're doing fantastic. And, these, I always use what we go through as an example, um, because, of course, I'm not immune to going through things. We all go through things that are difficult. And with my dad, I think that's where a lot of the deepest emotions are for me. So it's really, really challenging when those things come up, and he lives next door. My mom and dad both live next door, which is the best thing in the world for our family. It was amazing for me when our kids were little because they were there to help us. And so now it's a blessing to be able to be there to help my parents the way that they always helped us. So, but thank you for all the kindness and the concern and the prayers and everything else. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad he's doing better. I'm so glad your
Yeah.
family is doing better. That's such a hard situation. So glad you're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So glad to see your
Yes.
face and get
Mhm.
to talk
Thank
to
you. I
you
know you
today.
too. I'm
Thanks.
excited because you had some stories to tell last week, or you had something to share last week, and because we didn't film, we didn't get a chance to talk about it. And I've got some stories that happened to me this week too. So I
Okay.
think today would be a really good opportunity for us to trade some stories and share with everybody what we have experienced.
I love that story time. So, okay,
Yeah.
everyone, gather around. Gather
Gather
around the
around the
fire as we
campfire.
begin to tell
Yeah.
our stories. Yes. Um, okay, super cool stories. So I have one that I was going to tell you last week, and then one that just happened to me this week that was really cool that I wanted to share because this is kind of like a theme that happens to me. So, when I'm like looking for validation, I'll ask spirit, I'll say, hey, show me this if, blah, 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 blah is supposed to happen. Like I use it as a sign. And I've had some pretty cool validation experiences like that. So I was kind of contemplating something and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I went for a run and I was like, okay, just to make sure I'm supposed to do this, like show me I said show me a bunny when I'm on my run. And I did it because I was like, okay, I don't see bunnies every time I run, but I have seen them out, so I know that like I could come across one, but it's very, very rare. It's just a possibility. So start running and I'm like, okay, that's what I want to see. It has to be on this run, right? I always give it like a time period, like it's going to be 24
Yeah.
hours or today to the end of the week, like whatever it is. So my time period was while I'm running, I want to see a bunny. And that means I'm like
Hmm.
green light for my decision. And um, anyways, so I'm running and then I'm like, you know what, spirits, like even if you don't show me a bunny, I'm going to make this decision. But it would just really make me feel better if I saw a bunny and I knew I was making the right decision. And as soon as I said that, I like turn the corner and I run past this house. I'm like approaching on this house and I come to their garage first. And there's like on their like side door of their garage, they had like a little like Easter bunny thing hanging on their door. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot it's almost Easter. Like I'm going to see like 100 Easter bunnies while I'm on this run. Like, what was I thinking? So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
it cannot be an Easter bunny. And as I
Yeah.
like, literally, that's what I thought. It cannot be an Easter bunny. And as I like come around to the front of this house, on their front patio was a ginormous Bugs Bunny, like super huge. And I just started laughing because I was like, that's not an Easter Bunny. And who in the world puts
Yeah.
out literally probably taller than me sized Bugs Bunny? And I
Bugs
was just
Bunny.
like, oh my God. That is hilarious. Like, there is your sign. And I'm going to show you a
Yeah.
picture because it's on my Instagram for anybody that's listening via just audio. Um, oh my gosh, look at
I
this.
love how creative they are. Like, how
Isn't that like
interesting.
I
Oh,
went
come
running,
on. Yeah.
right? I went running the day before and didn't see it. So,
Yeah.
like, isn't that crazy?
That is hilarious.
So then
It cannot be an Easter bunny.
yes, and that was my one stipulation. It can't be an Easter bunny, so I get Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's ginormous. And so I was just like, that you just can't make that up. So
No.
I call my husband and I'm like, you would not believe what I just did and what just happened. And I'm like, I'm sending you a picture now. So I send him the picture and we're on like speakerphone. And he opens up his phone to receive the photo and he goes, huh, it's 3:33. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's the like second validation. So I'm
Yeah.
like, the
Yeah.
master plan is working. So that
Yeah.
was just awesome. That was a really fun experience. That happened this week. That was a fun experience. So
That's a good
you
one.
don't have to be a psychic, a medium, anything to say, "Hey, spirits, give me this sign." And it's funny too because I like kind of in my head I was like, "Well, I want to see this type of car," and I was like, no," like it's like they were putting the idea in my head, like, "Ask for a bunny, ask for a bunny,"
Yes.
like we've got something up
Yeah.
ahead for
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's funny
Um,
afterwards, right? When you have these moments and you look back and you go, "Wait a minute. Did I ask for that or did they put that in my head?" Like, you know what I mean? When you look back at it? Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly. I was like, I think that they must have known that was up ahead, and they put
Yeah.
that in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that was really fun. Okay, the other story. This is what I was going to tell you last week. This is kind of crazy. So I've been
Okay.
telling you for a few weeks now that my dreams are becoming prophetic, right? And like, there's like
Yes.
themes from my dream that get carried forward into the day, whether it's like a very random object that's in my dream that I'll see the next day, or like, just a kind of like a theme. I don't know how else to explain it. Well, it hit the mother load last week. It's just kind of crazy. So I had
Okay.
this dream, and it was the weirdest dream I've ever had in my. Well, I can't say the weirdest dream, but it is top 10 weird dreams
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
I love it.
there's you guys this dream, but it's really interesting how it played out
Yeah.
in my day.
Mhm.
So God, I'm so embarrassed. Okay, here we go. The dream.
I love it.
Um, okay, so I have this dream that I'm driving in a car with my
Mhm.
husband, and we're
Mhm.
driving down this road, and all of a sudden I see this like dog on the side of the road, and I go, "Oh my gosh, we have to like turn back. That's like a lost dog. We've got to go, check on it." So I make him turn around,
Yeah.
and I get out of the car, and I see, and the dog's in like tall grasses, and then as I like get closer to the dog, I see that he's tied to another dog, and then I see that he's tied from the back to another dog, and they're like all roped up, and then all these like feral children come out of the grass and they like raid us and they raid our car and they're going through our car and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and at that moment that they're going through our car, um I'm like, oh, the baby. And all of a sudden I get super concerned because we have a baby in the car. But then I'm kind of calmed down because I'm like, oh, it's okay, the baby's in the Tupperware. They won't find the baby in the Tupperware. And in my, like, as I'm thinking about where the baby is in my dream, the baby is in a Tupperware under the seat. And I'm like, they won't find the baby there. Okay. And this is where I'm like, oh my God.
Okay, okay.
Right? Like,
That's a good one.
this
Yeah.
is so weird. How did my brain come up with this dream?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and so we had to call my husband's friend to come help us like get
Mm-hmm.
these children off of us and out of our car. And we got home, and I was just like cleaning and stuff, and then I was like, oh, the baby, I didn't get the baby out of the car. So I like run back to the car, and I pull the Tupperware out, and I open the Tupperware lid, and I like check on the baby, and it's like the size of a fetus, but it's fully baby. Like it was naked like a fetus, and the size of a fetus, but like wasn't connected via an umbilical cord or anything. And the
Yeah.
baby was fine. He looked a little parched, but like he
Yeah.
was doing good.
He was doing good.
And
Yeah.
he was doing good. So so anyways, and that was the end of my dream. And I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, who am I to have a dream about a baby in a Tupperware and feral children and like, oh my goodness. So, anyways, so that morning I was in charge of an event at school,
Okay.
and it was the Parents and Pastries event. So you get to come to school before school starts and have a donut with your parent, and then go off to school. And so I was in
Yeah.
charge of bringing all the donuts and passing the donuts out for this event.
Yeah.
And at the end of the event, the kids that like are on the bus that get breakfast before school like came into the cafeteria, and they saw all of our Dunkin' Donuts, and they were like, I don't want school food. Like, give me these donuts, that we had all
Yeah.
perfectly placed on the table and whatnot. And they just like raided us and took all our donuts. And they were like, and they were like, can we have a donut? We're like, I mean, I don't, yeah, sure. Because it was the end of the event. We had extra donuts.
Yeah.
So we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can have a donut. Anyways, we got in huge trouble that we did not, that we fed the children donuts without a parent permission. Um, yeah. And we were like,
Oops.
I'm really sorry. Like, they kind of came at us, and some took without asking and some asked, and we felt like the other kids already had it and we couldn't not let them have it, and like we had extras and we couldn't tell they didn't have parents, and like, so
Yeah.
anyways, it's kind of a big deal. And but like as they came at us, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of my dream with all the feral children coming at me. And and I know that my dreams are like becoming prophetic. So I'm
Yeah.
like, that
Yeah.
has to be why I dreamt about the feral children raiding my car.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, so then I took the day off and I went and got my hair done. So I left immediately from that event to like my hair appointment. And my husband was
Yeah.
out of town. And so I called my husband and I was like, you would not believe this dream I had. And I'm telling him about the dream. And then I'm telling him about how I feel like the children at the donut event were like the children that were raiding our car.
Right.
And then I was like, the only other like really key element to this dream is the fetus baby. And I'm like, what does the baby, like, where is the baby going to fit into my day? Like, what's the baby? And as soon as I say that, I get a kick in my stomach. And that's like how I can tell that there's like a baby in spirit with me, is like I'll get like kicks, like there's a baby inside my stomach kicking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden I get a baby kick and I'm like, oh God, is that my baby? Why is there a baby here? I was like, little baby, who are you? Like.
Where do you
So
come from? Who are you
yeah,
connected
yeah,
to?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So I hang up the phone with my husband and I'm driving to this hair appointment. I'm like, little baby, I don't know who you are. It's like, why are you here? And anyways, then of course I make a wrong turn as I'm talking to this baby. So then I have to get out my GPS and I'm trying to find the hair salon because I'm coming from a different way. Um, I get to the hair salon, and my hairstylist knows that I'm a medium, but she doesn't know I have crazy dreams. And so I don't know why, because I had stopped talking about the dream and I was really just thinking about getting directions and parking and whatnot. But as soon as I like got in her chair, I was like, she's like, how's it going? I'm like, you would not believe this dream that I had. I'm like, I had the craziest dream last night. And I tell her the dream and she's like, that's really weird. And I was like, yeah. And she goes and she mixes up the color in the back. And then she comes out. And I don't know why, like, I just felt like prompted to be like, so my dreams are becoming prophetic. And I went to this donut event. I only told her the dream. And so then she comes back and I'm like connecting it to my relative. I'm like, I went to this donut event and I know that the feral children in the dream are the children that stole all the donuts. But there's this baby, and the baby's just like kicking away at this point. And I'm like, there's this baby, and the baby I know is real because I keep feeling kicking, but I don't know where the baby fits into my day and like what's going on. And she looks at me and she goes, I'm 11 weeks pregnant right now. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's so cool because I actually was the first client that when she had her first child, I was the first client that she told because her grandmother came to me while I was in the chair and told me, and I was like, do you have any news to tell me? And then she
I
was like,
remember that. Yeah.
yes. So then
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm like, she's like,
Whoa.
you're always the first client that I tell. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your baby's been with me all morning. And so she
That
was
is
like,
amazing.
isn't that so cool? So she was like, do you know if it's a boy or a girl? And I was like, well, there was a blue lid on the Tupperware. So I don't know. So it could be.
Wow.
Isn't that
Wow.
crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just like, I don't know. I just love that story because I was like, I just kind of listened to all my intuition and was like, I feel prompted to
Mm-hmm.
tell her more. Like, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I need, there's like more to the story that I have to tell her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had no idea because she just had her first baby. So I didn't think that she was ready to have a second baby. So I wasn't like
Right.
thinking it was her at all.
Right.
And,
Right.
and then I'm just sitting there going, where does this baby belong? And then she's like, it's me. So
That is
cool.
so funny. I love the synchronicities. I love it. I really love that. And how amazing, because your dreams really are blending into the physical like quickly.
Yes.
Like that's
Yes.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now I wonder if you can ask for information. Well, of course you can ask for information. And I had a client actually that was talking to me, and she often does tell me about her dreams. And she has started asking questions because she has a lot of prophetic dreams. So she started asking questions about the choices that she's making, and they're happening in her dreams. So she's getting like all of these signs, and she wakes up and she says, sometimes I don't even know, like I don't remember. And then throughout the day, something triggers and it all comes pouring in, all of the answers. And so she's got this pattern that she's creating to go back and forth and ask questions. So really fascinating because I feel like there's so many different ways that we're getting information. And it just triggered me with you telling this. And I feel like there's a pattern that you're getting as well. I mean, everything is patterns, right? Everything comes
Yeah.
in patterns. And it's when we recognize our own patterns, it can get really interesting because then we can kind of create these new foundations of communication. And spirit is smart and creative and funny. And the things that will come through are just incredible. I love how creative that is because they're speaking with such metaphoric language, right? Like they're
Yes.
speaking with so many signs and symbols.
And I think the Tupperware was like representative of her womb now. I'm not crazy. I don't want to stick babies in Tupperwares. Like, I don't think that's normal. So, yeah, I think that the Tupperware was representative of her womb, which was really cool.
Yes,
And just, like, I don't know, it's just amazing.
that is great. That is a great story. That is a really great story. I'm
Yes.
excited to hear about more of your prophetic dreams.
Oh, man. Yeah, me
Like
too.
that's an interesting one to untangle. And what I love the best about that is that you knew. So you knew, you've had enough of these dreams to know that something was coming, that there was going
Yes.
to be pieces arrive.
Well, and I think what's so cool is like I'll find like one thread. Like, remember, I was telling you off air about how like these people wanted to play like what looked like a Nerf gun game with me. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
but then the bullet was not a Nerf bullet. It was different, which was a like had a very significant theme with want to bring it back to Dune with the Dune
Yeah.
movie. And
Yeah.
but then we went off and we like sieged the Capitol in my dream, which doesn't really, I mean, maybe that's tied still to the movie. I don't know, but like I couldn't piece that piece that part of the dream, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
then when
Mm-hmm.
I had this dream, I was like, okay, the feral children, that's the main part. I've got that accomplished. And so before I would have been like, I don't know, the baby that could have just been my weird consciousness. I don't know. But the fact that then the baby was kicking me, like, no, I'm real. I'm a real part of the dream, like, was really cool.
No, I just love that because there's so many ways that we can get all of this information. Some of it we're not even asking for it, but there's importance to it. And your hairstylist, there is something very important to these experiences for her and to you coming forward and giving her this information because it is changing her consciousness. Like she is growing from these
It is.
experiences.
It is. Okay, we had a little bump in our connection. Um, okay, but anyways, yes. So my kids were like 4 and 6, so I didn't have like a pregnancy where I was like very into like spiritual things. And she is going through this, and she went to a Reiki practitioner through her whole first pregnancy. And the
Mhm.
Reiki practitioner would talk to her baby. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like absolutely beautiful that she's got this connection with her baby before the baby's even born. So she is opening up. And like, yeah, and I definitely think I have a little bit of a role in that. And
Yes. Yes.
so yeah, it's really cool. Really cool.
What's quite
So
amazing too is when we're open and once when spirit knows that yes, we know we're a conduit. We know that when there's something, we're very willing to share that information, and they know that. And so a lot of what comes through, it like you didn't know where any of that would land. How does this fit with me, like with the baby? Is it mine? Is it We don't always know that stuff. And so it's amazing because they will line things up, and that's part of my story too. Spirit will line things up in ways that we couldn't even imagine how they're doing it. And when they know you're a conduit, they're going to send you along your way to do, to share whatever. And what I also love is we don't always know how impactful what it is that we're sharing truly is. And we may not ever know. We may walk away from an experience or sharing something and be like, well, I knew I felt I need to share that, or I knew that was important, but we may not know the impact of how important that is, which is
yeah,
just incredible. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Because then
I
that
would
makes
like
me
to
really want to hear
share.
your story. Yes.
Yes, I would like to share what happened. Okay, so I'm going to try and condense this because we all know that I can talk circles around everything. So I'm going to I'm going to try and keep on track with this one.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's go back to my cancer journey. Okay, let's just go back to that for a moment. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, and I believe it was my visit to the cancer clinic right before my chemo started. So I was very newly diagnosed. And I remember I was headed towards the exit, walking out of the building. And I looked down at the floor below me, and there was a woman standing there that looked so familiar. And she had clearly just had cancer treatment. And looking downstairs is where the radiation department is. And so I was looking down, I'm like, wow, that woman looks so familiar. Who is that? And I couldn't get my eyes off her because I was so drawn to her, but I just couldn't place who it was. Well, she turned around and looked at me, and I knew exactly who it was. So she was a woman that I had become friends with, that I lost touch with, and I became friends with her because she taught my youngest daughter kindergarten. She actually was a supply teacher that came in to cover for another, one of the sweetest, most amazing people that you'll ever meet. And anyway, I always knew her with very, very long, dark, curly hair. And so she was there with no hair, and I didn't recognize her. So once I saw her and realized she was diagnosed with breast cancer, just like me, she was just a little bit further. I think she was maybe 4 months. So no, it was more than that, because she was in radiation, about 6 months ahead. So anyway, it's important that that piece is there, because that drew us together and we were able to start communicating again. And she wasn't teaching anymore. She was off taking care of her health and whatnot. And she had a couple kids, and, life had changed. So we were able to get in contact again throughout our cancer journey. And to make a long story short, throughout the journey, we both were in remission. We were both clear. We had both gone through, like, we would meet for coffee and chat, going through the surgeries, all the different things that were happening. So we kind of compare notes. How are you feeling? What's going on with this? It was really nice to have that, just kind of somebody to talk to that you felt comfortable with. And anyway, she let me know that her cancer came back. She had a kind of a scary experience. Her cancer came back and it metastasized. We started to kind of drift a little bit apart around that time. And I think for me, part of that was I didn't want to, as hard as this sounds, I can look back at it and understand, but I had a lot of fear at that time. So it was really hard, because she was going through some really scary things, and I was in a place of remission, not wanting to look at that part of things, and also not knowing how to navigate conversations with what she was going through. And I felt immense guilt that I was okay, that I was feeling okay. So we just, not that we stopped acknowledging each other, because there was Facebook and everything too, but it was more like I would keep track of what was happening with her. But I was also having a major spiritual awakening at the same time. So there was so much going on. Long story short, she, I think it was 3 years later, 4 years later, she passed away. And she was an advocate for treatment. There were certain treatments that could have happened here, and she had to travel overseas for treatment. And just she's a big advocate, beautiful light. Like, you just see her, you could see the light just exuding from her all the time, but she just went through so much. And I didn't attend her funeral or anything. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, she was very attached to her, and she would, as a teacher, she would come back and fill in the school. So even as my daughter was growing, she would see her, even through her treatment, she would come back and fill in. And so it was a very special bond between the two of them. So when she passed, I was like, I would say, had to work through some guilt, some, it brought up some stuff for me. Okay, so this is an emotional one. This is how amazing Spirit is. I can't even speak this. It's so amazing. So I've had, okay, Michelle, get it together so you can speak. I've had I'm like, look at me, I'm losing it already. And then you'll understand when I explain the rest of it. But, so I have had communication with her. So after she passed, I've felt her spirit. I had a dream with her. She came through another medium and gave me a lot of really beautiful information. She said, I'll be back. I'm not done with you. I'm going to be back. And I was like, okay. So I hadn't really, had much communication with her. Now, let's fast forward. So the last communication I had with her in spirit would have been maybe 3 months ago. I got that message. So here we are, January. Okay, so January I had a group session, and in this group session, it was beautiful. It was very emotional, but I was very emotional through this session. Like, I felt so much emotion, which does happen because a lot of times, we're feeling the emotion of our spirits that are here, expressing that emotion to who they love and picking up on all the emotion of the family. Well, so I channeled the family member that had passed away, and this friend came through, and I channeled these messages, and there's this one woman that I couldn't get my eyes off of, and her friend was here, and I was giving messages, and I thought, sometimes I just get this feeling like I just want to hug people. Like it's so weird. Like I want to just say to them, I love you so much. I just like it sounds weird, you've got somebody that you don't know, that you're just having this session with, and you just want to love them so much. You just want to hug them, and I know that's the spirit, expressing how much love for this person that they have. So had that session, thought that was a little weird, because it was a lot of love that I was feeling more than ever for this one specific person out of 5. Okay, directed at this one person. Okay, so fast forward, this is January. Well, the woman, the one that I was very focused on, contacted me and wanted to set up a session with her and her partner. To make a long story short, this session happened this week, and the circumstances around the session, I was having problems with Zoom, and I was going to move the session to the next day because I was having so many issues, and it was very important, and I got the message, no, it's very important to have it today. Like, it's going to be fine. Shut everything down, reopen it. It's going to be fine. So I did. So I came on the session with this woman, and she says her partner's just coming to sit down. He comes and sits down. It was the husband of my friend that sat down in front of me, who I've not seen in several years. And my jaw hit the floor, because at that very moment, I could feel the energy here, and everything started to flood in. And I squeaked out her name because I started crying. And I squeaked out her name, and I was like, wait a minute here. I'm like, and these people didn't find me on Channeling Eric. They didn't, there's no knowledge. And this friend, by the way, that's in spirit, had no knowledge what I was doing. So her husband is not even on social media at all, and had no idea what I was doing. So I've not seen him in years. And I'll tell you, that was the most jaw-dropping moment I've ever had. I felt like I was being punked, because I'm like, well, how is this spirit here connected to, like, what's going on here, right? So what happened is this spirit arranged all of this to happen, and there's some personal stuff in there that I would love to share, but I'm not going to, because it's not my story to tell. But there was just some personal synchronicities in there that were just so beautiful, and it was like a beautiful moment to express everything, for me to have the opportunity to express my own feelings to her husband. And now this woman that is sitting here, I'm now realizing that the session that I had in the group, that friend was also my friend. They were friends in the physical, from my same town. They were friends, and I didn't know this. I had absolutely no idea. And in spirit, she put her two friends together. Oh, are we going out again? Oh, there we go. Did you catch that last bit? In spirit, she put these two together. So she wanted to let them know that she put them together, and to let them know that everything was okay, and just so many beautiful messages. And of course, the first question that came out of me after this session was, why did I not recognize my friend when I was in this group session? how could I have not, like, all this communication, how did I, and I mean, the things that were coming through when I go back, like, of course it was her. Like, I'm giving all these messages and no idea that it's her. And this is the interesting thing, because the answer I got back from Eric was, because if you had have known that it was her, it would have ruined that whole group for you, because it would have been
Yeah.
very emotional, and
Yeah.
you would have been focused right in that area, and you wouldn't have brought through the important messages that need to come for everybody else. So
Yeah.
that was like set aside. It would just, I don't even know if I'm getting the shock and awe part of it that I had with how everything orchestrated, because behind the scenes, to put all of this together, to have us in that moment, the three of us, and the fact that, like, her husband is not social media, not, he's very busy with work, but it is so beautiful that these two are together. So beautiful. And to know that we've got a beautiful friend in spirit that helped it happen. And on top of that, said, I'm going to make sure that they know, and arrange them to come and be with me, for the three of us to be together. And I don't even know if the words I'm saying or how I'm describing the story even does justice to how amazing that experience was. But also to show us, there's times where, I've said this before, when spirit comes through, I don't see every spirit that comes through. So sometimes I'll see, I might see a flash of their face, a side of their face. Sometimes I see hands. Sometimes I'll see a flash of somebody standing. I might catch like their clothing or whatever, but it's not always like you see somebody just walk in standing here. I know some people do experience that, but that's not how I experience it. So here's what's even more interesting is, after that session, I was just in shock. And I walked out and I told my husband, and my daughter that knew her was sitting with my husband, and her face was she was in such shock. She goes, Mom, I dreamt about her last night. She came and
Oh,
saw me in my dreams. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So then she described what she was wearing in the dream, which is what I saw when I was having the session. So I saw her. She gave me an image and she showed me this like kind of shirt. It was kind of like a knit shirt with these pants. And my daughter described exactly, like, I hadn't said a word, and she described what she was in. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, was so powerful, such a powerful moment. And even more so, it was a very powerful moment for them, for the couple, for the two of them. So much validation for them. And it was very much in her style, the friend in spirit style, to really like bring everything together and surprise everybody. It was very much her way. So anyway, that was a very personal and beautiful experience. And I don't think I'll ever forget that.
That
Just,
is so beautiful. And it's so amazing how much, like, I don't know if power is the right word, but like how they're able to like manipulate circumstances to get you to file all in at the right time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
how do they do that? That's amazing.
yeah,
She
it,
sounds amazing. She sounds
yeah,
really, really
she is.
wonderful.
She
Yeah.
is. She's full of love. Yeah, very much so.
Yes.
So that was and I think a very healing experience for me. Very healing
Yes.
for my daughter, for
Yeah.
them. Like, that was like and that's what they love to do, is if they can stack it all up, they'll like get the biggest bang for the buck, basically. So
Yes.
if we're open and it can happen, they will stack it all up. So it's like good for everybody. And
I
it's
mean,
just amazing. It doesn't always happen like that, but whew, when it does, it's something else.
I can only imagine how healing that was for you because you felt like there was so much kind of left to be said and done for her, and you were able to do that for her. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that is
and
a
he
big
didn't
story.
he didn't have a chance to say goodbye to her, right? Because she was going for
Oh,
treatment overseas. And so there wasn't an opportunity for a proper physical goodbye. So there was just so much. And he was not the type that would, it just wasn't in his trajectory to go looking up a medium or anything.
yeah.
So he had some double shock because not only was this
Yeah.
happening, but it was me. And he's like, wait a minute,
I
you
know
do
you.
this? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a little bit of a surprise in that way. But one other thing that happened was Shelby, so the same daughter that had the dream, Shelby had an experience with Eric and a really interesting experience with him. And so Shelby does see spirit really physical, right? It's hit and miss when it happens. It just happens when it happens, right? And she really wanted to see Eric. So she said to him, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to see you. So whenever you want to come in and let me know that you're here, I'm ready. So she did that before she went to bed, and she said she had forgotten about it. She woke up at now she says it was 5:30 in the morning, but the sun was shining through the window, so I'm going to estimate it was a little bit later. But she said she woke up to a tap on her shoulder, and she said it startled her, and she goes, it was very physical tap, and she kind of looked, nobody's there. She's like, the feeling when somebody's standing over you or somebody's watching you, you could tell that I better to roll over a little more because somebody's here. So she kind of turns over her shoulder and she says that she was stunned because there was Eric standing there. Very physical. She goes, so physical, Mom, that my blinds, the shadow on my blinds were on his jeans. Like there was shadow on his
Oh my
pants.
gosh.
Yes. And he stood there now.
Wow.
She had said like 10 or 15 seconds, and I don't know if it was really that long. She said it just felt like that. So it may have only been for a few seconds. Who knows?
Yeah.
But she said that he had his hand over his mouth and he was kind of laughing and he was backing up slowly, she said. And what she really noticed was, she says his hair was really bushy. And she said it was like she goes, his clothing was very Y2K looking. She says he had a bushy hair, a ball cap on, and she said he had a red t-shirt with really baggy jeans, and under the t-shirt was like a white long sleeve t-shirt. And then she said, and what she really noticed was he had an ear pierce. He had a little diamond piercing, and the diamond was like shining. It was very, very bright. And she asked me, she goes, did he have his ear pierced? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. And so we looked it up and we're looking through some pictures, and she planted on a picture and she goes, that's what he looked like. Just like that. She goes, so much like that. But she said that she just watched him back up, and I said, was he like in a flow motion? Or she goes, no, he was stepping. She goes, I watched him step. And she says, and then he just disappeared in front of my bedroom door. That was it. And she heard him, like telepathically, say, go back to sleep. And that was it. That was the moment. But I'm like, wow. Whoa.
Oh my goodness. That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is a really cool experience.
Yeah.
That's really
She
funny.
says afterwards, I'm okay if you share that on your channel or if you share that with Elisa. Like, I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Like,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you, because that's really cool.
Yeah.
That validated a lot for me too. It's really funny. One of the first times that I saw Eric, I noticed that he had an earring, and I did the same thing. I was like, "Does he have
Yeah.
an earring?" And I
Yeah.
had to go through photos to see, and I saw he did have an earring.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
good. He's keeping up with fashion trends because the
Yeah.
2000s are back. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think she said he had white runners on. But she says she said it felt like she was frozen for a moment. She was in such like shock. And I said, "Did you know it was Eric?" She goes, "Oh yeah. I knew. I knew.
you
Like
just
right
aren't
away I knew it was him."
expecting someone to be like
Yes.
full form in front of you. Yes, yeah.
Yes. she says that that was definitely the most solid she'd ever seen a spirit. Like that was,
That's
yeah,
unbelievable.
yes. And of course I
Wow.
was like, hey, Eric, what about me? What about me? I said, I want to see you
Seriously,
like that.
I know. I'm gonna like before bed tonight. I'm like, okay, Eric, I'm ready to see you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I keep saying it every night, and I'm like, I see him in my dreams. I see him in my third eye. I hear him. I'm like, what about the physical stuff? And he says eventually, eventually. So I don't know if it's just the way that I am. Maybe it's just like it's so funny because Shelby goes, well, Mom, she goes, everybody's different. Everybody's built different. So she said, like there might be some things about you that are stronger in some ways and not in others. So keep practicing. Thank you. You're right. But it's true, right? So I just that was so cool for me to experience because I felt like it was me who was experiencing it, like just with her shock and excitement and sharing it.
Yeah,
So it's so
that is
exciting.
unbelievable. That is really cool.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
so what does that mean for her? Like, is she going to start seeing more people, or did she just want to see Eric, or does she want a relationship with Eric, or what's the significance of
So, well, the significance of it, from what I understand, and Shelby seems to have a grip on what's happening. She this past year, and we know since her accident last year, that cracked a spiritual awakening right at that moment. And so really this past year from last July has been her going inwards, looking at things like, why do I feel this way? Where is this coming from? And she's talked to Eric. So she's used to asking for him and asking for help. And she does hear him clairaudiently. So she will get messages from him or just get some validation from him. And this is unbeknownst to me. Like she wasn't sharing a lot of this with me. So I mean, we had talked a lot. We've worked through a lot together, but her relationship with Eric that she's been developing, she has not really shared that until recently. How much has actually been happening? So she said it's so interesting because she's like, I don't know, Mom. Maybe I'm gonna just end up working with spirit. Maybe that's just what I'm gonna do in my life. And then she's like, and border security and a police officer, and she goes through all the different things she wants to do. But I said to her, I said, you know what, Shelby? I said, no matter what you do, I said, this is you, right? This is you. And we're reconnecting again. Okay, there we go. So I said, no matter what, Shelby, I said, this is you. Being spirit is you. And this is to help your life and all those around you. Whether you do this as a career or not, you're still helping people. You're still helping yourself. And it's a beautiful way to walk through the world. And
yeah,
I'm just very excited for her that at her age that she's grasping this information and applying it to her life, the best in the way that works for her. Eric hasn't really said a lot about what's happening, because I know a lot of it is not really for me to know, that it's not
yeah,
so that I don't affect her path in any way. And but he has said there is an unfolding that's taking place. There is an
very
organic
cool.
unfolding. So I have a feeling that her relationship with Eric will only develop more. And I hope for that. And in fact, I know that Eric has a relationship with each one of my family members, including um one of my brothers. And like Eric gets himself around. So they all know that he's around. To what degree at any given time, I don't know. But I know that they call on him quite a bit. So it's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
That was a grand finale. I love it. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And we managed to make it through with only 3 technical issues.
I know. Which hopefully I can edit them out. So we will find
Yeah.
out. Yes, the
Sorry
start is a
about
little
that.
bumpy. Yes. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us this week. Thank you for your stories, Michelle, and I'm glad your family's
And
on the
yours too.
mend.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will see you all next week.
We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel. Bye, everybody.